Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth shall set you free. You can't handle the truth. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
That's not how the Force works. Oh, really? You're cold?
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
I'd buy that for $1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Hasta la vista, baby.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Creative Control Movie Podcast. Thank you for joining us on this episode where we're going to rank the live-action Batman movies. So we're going to talk about the original Adam West. We're going to go through Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, Clooney, Christian Bale. Who else we got? Ben Affleck and Pattinson. So we're going to discuss all their movies. We've decided not on this occasion to include sort of the animated features or Lego Batman movie, but we'll do a bit of a shout out to those in between because we know actually what quality they are. So just focusing on the live action stuff. So what we're going to do is we're each going to give our rankings and kind of opinions on where we, what we think is the best. So we've got 10 movies which we're going to review. So the top movie is going to get 10 points. The bottom movie is going to get 1 point, very much like Eurovision. And then we'll tally up at the end to see what our Creative Control top 10 movie list looks like. Joining me on today's podcast is Lee, Alex, and Neil. How you doing, gentlemen?
Very good.
Well, thank you.
Good. So have any of you done any homework for this episode? Like, have any of you gone back and rewatched any of these to think, is it as good as I remember? Or are you just going off what you remember?
It's a Batman. I rewatch.
You just remember this shit.
I rewatched Batman 89 and Batman Returns today.
Okay.
Because I haven't seen them in a while. And even though I remember, I was saying to Alex before we started, you do remember things, but you also, there's little things that you might miss, And so watching them again today, I did see little things, little one-liners and stuff like that. Yeah, no, but I really enjoyed watching them again. So,
all right,
they've held up over this time.
All right, so okay. Look, what we'll do is I think we're going to finish with Neil because I think that is where we need to finish. The man's got his strong opinions on DC. He is our DC guru, so he can just absorb what everybody else has to say, and then he can give us his thoughts. What we'll do actually, then let's start with you then, Lee. So. Take us through your list. So what is at the bottom of your list? Which was your either least favorite or just one you really don't like? And and just to clarify, we're not including Justice League in this lineup because that is more of an ensemble movie, but we have included Batman versus Superman joint top billing as opposed to a solo film, but it's right that we include that live action movie. So that's why we've got 10. So just to clarify what our 10s are, we've got Batman the movie from 1966, we've got Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. Then we've got Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises, Batman vs. Superman, and The Batman. So that gives us 10. All right. So, sorry, Lee, go ahead. So what's your bottom movie?
The bottom movie would be Batman the movie 1966. One being I didn't know he was going to include that one. So, and I can't really remember.
So it's more of a case you haven't seen it.
Yeah, so. I have, or I might have seen it, but a long time ago. It might have been one that I watched as a kid, and I may well have really enjoyed it as a kid. But it's not fresh in my brain. So that's at the bottom of the list.
Break my heart.
Okay, so what's next?
So I feel a bit bad about that, but next one would be Batman and Robin.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't really enjoy that at all. Just
what was it about that kind of stuck out to you that you just think, nah? I mean, you could say, where do I start? But
exactly, yeah. It was just really everything about it. Really, it was kind of a little bit like the same sort of thing as Spider-Man 3, really, where it was just enough. They just were bringing out another film, and I just felt that there wasn't much thought going into it. Just a different Batman, and it just got a bit cheesy. It was, it wasn't great. So, I don't think. Like I say with Batman and like the Dark Knight trilogy, I couldn't tell you how many times I've watched those movies, but Batman and Robin, I could probably say I've maybe watched maybe twice.
Okay.
So that says a lot. So
all right, next up.
next one would be Batman versus Superman.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't enjoy that at all. I did enjoy the parts that, Ben Affleck parts of Batman, but the actual movie, no.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't. I say again, I might have watched that 3 times, but yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't the movie for me. I would like to have seen Ben Affleck do like a standalone movie first, and then maybe approach possibly a Batman versus Superman. But when they said they was going to do a Batman versus Superman, I wasn't really that. I just didn't know how they would really do that.
Yeah.
And no, I didn't really enjoy that. I said I enjoyed parts of it, but not enough to actually really enjoy the movie.
Okay, so what's up next?
Batman Forever.
Okay.
I think I enjoyed the soundtrack more than the actual
It's a killer
movie.
soundtrack, yeah.
It was good. Jim Carrey was good. I mean, he was maybe a little bit too playful and a bit too comical. But I did like the aspect of the Riddler. That would be kind of the way that he was in everybody, in sight. He was in public, and but he was the Riddler in the back. I liked that aspect of it. But yeah, other than that, it wasn't. Again, it wasn't that great. I did like they tried to go a little bit darker with Bruce Wayne. When he was going to the
therapist
and everything like that. So that was an element of it which was quite good. Next one would be The Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
I think maybe because of obviously Heath Ledger passing away and not being able to be in the third one. I think that obviously had to change the dynamic maybe. I don't know if that really was the movie that he wanted to make, but there was certain issues with it that just didn't, especially has to follow The Dark Knight as well. That was probably quite a difficult thing to do, because that film's amazing. I really liked that film, so I didn't, the whole Bane thing, I know they had sound issues as well with it, and sometimes it come. But there were certain scenes and it was quite good. Catwoman as well. I think Neil commented that on the previous podcast, saying, it wasn't involved enough and there wasn't really much about her. But, saying that was no fault of Anne Hathaway. It was just down to the way things were. But,
it's kind of like with that film. It's like you remember Anne Hathaway being in it, but you don't remember Catwoman being in it so much.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So, it's very much the character strength wasn't great in there.
Then would be the Batman. 5 would be the Batman.
The Batman, okay.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was, it was really good. What they done with it. It was kind of like watching Batman 89 today, and that setting. It was very similar, like the way that Gotham was created in the Batman recently. You could tell that there were similarities there, and that looked really good. Number 4, the Batman Returns.
Okay.
It's just great. Michael Keaton as Batman, and I like him as Batman, and I also like him as Bruce Wayne as well. I think he does a really good job on both parts. Great characters. What's her name now? I forgot her name. Michelle Pfeiffer. She's just awesome as Catwoman.
Yeah.
She's great. The whole what she brings to that role. It's I think she's probably my number 1 Catwoman at the moment. She's just great. Really good fun. Danny DeVito again, great fun. It's like that the sort of world that Tim Burton was creating there. It was. It's so different. It's like when I was looking at doing this list, it's very difficult because the Dark Knight trilogy and then the Tim Burton films films, they're kind of like equally good, but they're just made differently.
They're just different.
They're just from like different worlds, but they're just sort of, so it was very difficult to put it in an order, because I think like the Tim Burton films, the two of his films, and probably the two Nolan films are probably equal par really for me. But anyway, so number 3 would be Batman Begins.
Okay.
Yeah, really like that. The whole sort of making Batman real. Everything's possible, all the training and what he went through to make it believable. That was just awesome. The twists that was in that movie. It just, it was really well done. Really good storyline. Yeah, no, love that. And second one would be Batman 89.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was really tough, to be honest. Like 1 and 2 was so tough for me, because it is pretty much equal par, to be honest with you. But Batman 89, I remember seeing that the first time, and Jack Nicholson's performance in that as well as the Joker. It's just again incredible what he did with that. And I think I was really sort of I don't know how, but back at the time I was really scared of him. The scene.
I mean, the prosthetics and the makeup they did for that smile was great. It was really creepy. And and I remember especially, because it became the skin color was the makeup as opposed to the white, and he was wiping that off and it's the white underneath. It's like, that's kind of freaky.
Yeah, and he's just he's the laugh, the cackle. He had that down to a T, and just all of the one-liners. Again, like he was just great. And so watching it today, it's just it's fantastic. But number 1 for me is The Dark Knight.
Okay.
I know Satch says it's not really a Batman movie because he's not in it that much, but I don't know. I'd say he's in it enough for it to be a Batman movie. Again, Heath Ledger is the Joker with a different take on it. It was, it was brilliant. It was just everything about the film was just really well shot in IMAX. It was great when I saw it at the IMAX in London. It was awesome. Music, soundtrack, brilliant. Again, the twist, and I think Batman kind of met his match as well with Heath Ledger. Say he had to almost go where he didn't want to go to sort of take him down. It was good. I think, I just think that it was really.
That's your top movie.
That's my top
All right,
one. Yeah.
It's a strong list. It is a strong list. So let's see how close it matches Alex's list. So Alex, we'll come to you. What is your bottom movie?
Okay, so bottom for me is going to be Batman and Robin.
Oh, it's going right down. Okay.
It's just awful. I think, similar. I mean, obviously I did watch it in the cinema because obviously when it came out, I was young enough that I would have gone to see it in the cinema. Since then, I've probably watched it maybe one other time for the laughs. And I struggle to get through it that time. So I just don't think, even if I tried to pop it on now just to get drunk and try and laugh at it, I don't think I could actually sit through it.
Oh, come on. You wasn't need to the cooler. Come on.
No. Mate, as much as I'm an Arnie fan, and to be honest, I think Arnie could make actually a decent Mr. Freeze if it had been sort of done more sort of serious. But that's bottom for me. So number 9 would be Batman the movie from 1966.
Okay.
Higher than Batman and Robin basically is almost as campy as Batman the movie, but at least Batman the movie, that's what it's supposed to be. Whereas
that's what it was for the time.
Yeah, for the time that was Batman, and it sort of reflected how he was in the comics as well. He was a sort of a lighter tone in the comics at that point as well. So, I still have a soft spot for that. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. I mean, there's some good one-liners and stuff in there as well. Number 8 would be Batman Forever.
Okay.
Again, I think Val Kilmer was a good Bruce Wayne. Like Lee said, they tried to go a little bit deeper with the origin, so not just my parents were murdered, but yeah, again with the whole sort of therapy thing and remembering about the book and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, there was definitely elements of that. Not a fan of Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. I thought he was just he was too similar to Riddler. I mean, Riddler, Jim Carrey is doing Jim Carrey, and he's sort of kind of his usual sort of over the top self, but.
You needed Two-Face to be more straight.
Two-Face was just kind of almost the same. It was almost like they were doing sort of 66 version of the sort of like Joker and Riddler sort of paired up in Batman 66. So where are we? Number 7. I think I'd go Batman v Superman.
Okay.
Probably the Ultimate Edition. I mean, I saw the theatrical version. Obviously, the one time in the cinema. I don't think I'd seen the theatrical version again, but I have obviously since watched the Ultimate Edition, which is definitely an improvement on the theatrical version. But again, similar to Lee, Affleck as Batman, awesome. That warehouse fight is like probably like one of the best Batman moments ever. Similarly, I would have loved to have seen him do a solo Batman, but it wasn't to be. So yeah, as much as I like Affleck as Batman and his parts in that movie, again, the sort of movie overall didn't work for me. 6 would be where are we? Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
Again, for me, I mean, I love Tom Hardy as Bane. I think he does a really good job in that. But yeah, just overall, I think there's just too many sort of plot conveniences and little things that don't quite gel with me. I get sort of, Nolan's got his own world, and so his sort of trilogy ends. But for me, things like Batman kind of like retiring and leaving the mantle to somebody else just doesn't sit right with me as a comic fan. It's just like, I'm sorry, but
agreed.
Batman's Batman until like he gets killed out on the street.
Yeah.
The man's not quitting. So there's little things like that sort of just push it a little bit lower down for me. Which would then make number 5 Batman Returns.
Okay.
I do love Batman Returns, and I've got a soft spot for it. I love, obviously, Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman, awesome. I do think though it's very much a Tim Burton film, and I see some people say it's more of a Tim Burton film than a Batman film, which I can kind of agree with to some extent. But I think I like his take on the Penguin. It was different for the time, and yeah, it's the sort of thing where if it came on TV or whatever, it's like, no matter what point it's on, you can sort of get sucked into it.
Yeah, agreed.
Number 4 then would be, I'm going to go Batman 89, as much as I do love it. And again, huge fan of Keaton. Keaton sort of was my Batman. I was too young for the 66 Adam West, although I did obviously watch that show and that movie as a kid. But yeah, being a comic book fan, it was like, Keaton. When Keaton came around, I was like, yes, this was our Batman.
Okay.
Again, Jack Nicholson, awesome as the Joker. I'm going to go Batman Begins for number 3.
Okay.
Love the origin story. I like Nolan's take on, Batman as literally as real world as you can get. The whole going, as Lee said, going off to go to the training.
Yeah.
All of his suit, the gear, everything is all kind of, real world kind of stuff that he's appropriated from applied sciences. I struggled with 1 and 2. I think at the moment I'm actually going to go The Dark Knight for number 2. Love the film. Heath Ledger obviously is awesome as the Joker. Again, Batman maybe not in it as much. However, I think for me, I'm going to put the Batman at number 1, just because at the moment it's like the most sort of comic accurate from my experience as a comic reader of the Batman that we've ever had so far, just with the whole detective thing. Gotham feels like really real and grimy. That's the one thing, I think Gotham in Nolan's movies is probably actually better in Begins than it is in The Dark Knight. I don't know whether that's just because The Dark Knight, I think it was pretty much Chicago for the whole of the movie. I don't think they sort of chopped and changed the cities around like they have on some of the other movies. So for me, I probably prefer Gotham in Begins than I do The Dark Knight. It's got that sort of, the Narrows, it's got that sort of dirtier, sort of grittier feel, which Batman has just done, just an awesome job with. And for me, that first, opening 15, 20 minutes of the Batman is just like the best sort of opening portrayal of sort of Batman that I've seen on screen at the moment. So for the moment, as much as I struggled and I kept flipping them back and forth, and it might change in the future. I don't know. Obviously, I've seen The Dark Knight God knows how many times, and the Batman only 3 times up to this point. So it may change, but for me at the moment, I think I'm going to go the Batman as number 1 for me.
Okay.
Controversial as it may
So
be.
we got some discrepancies already. Love it. That's the beauty about movies, right? We've all got our different opinions. I mean, Neil's just going to spin this on his head. So, all right. So I'm going to take you a little bit through sort of like Batman movie history here a little bit. So obviously we had Batman the movie 1966. It's from the TV series Adam West, really popular at the time. First time this character had been on screen. Really iconic Batmobile. I never watched the series growing up. I saw bits of it, but it wasn't a show that I actually sat down and watched. However, I probably know more about the Batman series from The Simpsons and the parodies that they've done of it than the actual show, because I actually love what they did with Radioactive Man and how they mimicked the Radioactive Man movie against sort of like the Adam West Batman. And it's like, my eyes, the goggles do nothing. It just to this day just makes me laugh. But and how they were casting like Radioactive Man's sidekick and how he was like similar to Robin and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't have a huge amount meaning to me. But then obviously we had the Tim Burton films, 1989, probably some of the best marketing ever for a movie at that point. It was literally the bat symbol on a poster. That was it. The movie came out, people were lining up to go see it. It was absolutely immense. And then Batman Returns came out. Unfortunately, a large part of why Tim Burton didn't return for the third movie was the fact that McDonald's was a huge part of Batman Returns in terms of its marketing and the budgets and everything. And they had this whole set of Happy Meal toys which didn't sell, and all kind of the merchandise that went with Batman Returns. Because of the age rating, they just couldn't shift the toys. So the studio wanted to go for a lighter tone. Originally, the third Batman movie was going to have Robin in it. It was going to be one of the Wayans brothers, who's going to be, Marlon Wayans is going to be Robin and stuff like that. But that didn't materialize. And obviously, they got Joel Schumacher in, who wanted to brighten it up, and then that's when we started getting on the neon and the lighter colors and stuff like that. He then went even further with Batman and Robin. Like we said, they kind of went very much almost to the Adam West side. They'd actually already started planning a sequel to Batman and Robin. I'm just trying to think of what the name was going to be.
Triumphant.
I think it was Triumphant.
Batman Triumphant, So, and it was going to have a scene where I think it was going to be Scarecrow, and I think he goes under hallucinogen and stuff like that, but it was going to have a courtroom scene. I think it's kind of an illusion where they're actually going to bring back all the old villains. They're going to bring Jim Carrey and Danny DeVito and Jack Nicholson and stuff like that to try and bring them all back to return for this kind of thing. But sort of like Spider-Man No Way Home before it happened. But because of the poor box office and the lousy reception and, Clooney for years now just keeps apologizing for this movie. And I think Joel Schumacher actually apologized to it recently as well. But then obviously Nolan came in and did his trilogy. He wanted to ground it, and sort of like make sort of like what he's done is he's made a gritty, grounded thriller movie with Batman as a character. So for me, he hasn't taken Batman like, these are the comics, this is exactly what I want to do and make it a comic book movie. He's made great movies with comic book characters. Then we had Batman versus Superman. Now, originally this was announced as Man of Steel 2. It was going to be a sequel. Then it was going to be a case of, right, Batman's going to appear in it. But DC basically found themselves what they saw with Marvel and the way they were pushing forward with their characters. They wanted Batman and Superman to get together quicker. Then suddenly you had Wonder Woman being thrown in. scenes with the Flash and Aquaman, and they start pushing their franchise forward way too quickly. And yeah, so then obviously we had Justice League, but yeah, Ben Affleck was supposed to get his own movie. He was going to write, direct, and star in it. Then directing duties were going to be handed over to somebody else. And then the studio started looking at it, and they kind of saw what happened with Justice League and thought, we want to kind of go maybe in a different direction with this. So then obviously they've gone off and done something completely separate and its own entity. But we've got stuff with Ben Affleck coming. Obviously then we had the success of the Justice League, the Snyder Cut, which I thought was fantastic. And, people want to see more of Ben Affleck as Batman. We will get to see more of him in the future. He is going to appear in the Flash movie, even though that's been delayed again. And we're also going to have, obviously, Keaton coming back as the Batman in the Flash movie, and also the Batgirl movie that's coming up as well. So lots of changes going on with DC, but, with their multiverse, they're pretty much going to say, look, we're going to do whatever we want. Then we obviously got the new movie with Pattinson, who replaces Affleck, in that whole movie, and they've gone off and done their own thing. They very much said this is a separate universe. It's nothing to do with the DCEU. It's not part of the Joker movie or anything like that. It's its own thing. But this is Warner's. Who knows what they might do in the future? There's rumours the reason why they've delayed The Flash is because they want to try and get some stuff filmed with Pattinson to appear in the Flash movie and stuff like that.
I mean, Warner Brothers.
But yeah, exactly. Damn you, Warner Brothers. So, all right. So we're going to move on to my rankings. Right. So for me, at the bottom of the list is Batman the movie, just because it wasn't my Batman. I saw it years later after I saw like the Keaton version and stuff like that. And, it was a product of its time. It was, it did well at its time. It was well received. It just doesn't appeal to me. Then second on my list is Batman and Robin. That movie kind of hurt at the time. It was a painful watch in the cinema, I have to say. All the sets, everything felt very budget. Really fake practical sets. It's just like cardboard and stuff. And then he whips out like the Batman credit card and stuff like that, and it was just like, oh my god, I can't be dealing with this.
That was the final straw. If the ice skates weren't bad enough in the beginning.
Oh yeah, pop out ice skates and
the credit card.
And then what they did to Bane and that character.
Yep.
Poison Ivy. Oh, it's just so. Oh no, you forget that Lucy Silverstone was in it. We had Batgirl in it as well. You kind of forget that, and had the whole thing with Alfred, and then just.
It seemed to be more about who they could get in the film. It's like, what stars can we get in the next Batman movie? Right, okay, well, yeah, we get Schwarzenegger, and it's like, yeah, let's just try and pack it all out with stars.
They just kept filling it. And yeah, bat nipples. As far as Pattinson actually wore George Clooney's suit as part of his audition process and stuff like that, and I think he even struggled with the bat nipples. But so that ranks very, very low down. It's not an unbearable watch for me now because the way I look at it is just so funny, and it's actually a movie you could probably have a drinking game to and just actually have a laugh watching it because it is so bad. So it's versioning now on it's so bad it's quite good now in a sense. But as a Batman movie, yeah, it goes down. Next for me is going to be Batman Forever. It was, Joel Schumacher's first movie. He tried to brighten the tone. It was about the toy sales. Again, the prosthetics and the set designs and everything just became quite fake. Heavily reliant on special effects in this movie, with the brain warping and, all that kind of stuff, where Burton stuff was very grounded and sort of like practical effects and stuff like that. So it was just a different tone. Jim Carrey was kind of at a high, that wasn't bad casting at the time. But he was just over eccentric from the beginning, even as sort of like Edward Nygma, it was just kind of over the top, cheesy, then to the Riddler. And then that weird, silver suit at the end with the spiky hair. And I was just like, why? Why is he gone? Why is he gone like this now? It's just like,
he watched Batman 89, he wanted that Prince outfit.
Yeah. It's like gone all like Starman, David Bowie on us. It was just like so bizarre. And then Tommy Lee Jones did it as a paycheck, but because his kids were fans of the comic book and he hadn't actually done a film which his kids could see at the time, so that was the main reason he kind of signed on for it. Again, sort of the weird purple face, the bizarre over the top suits. Two-Face were very much used to like real smart type of suits because he was a district attorney. Not all these weird, fancy, colourful suits and stuff like that. So yeah, it just didn't work. But I do remember at the time, the Batmobile was fairly, quite cool. Val Kilmer was decent. Robin, Chris O'Donnell, I think that was a miscast. And again, he was too old to be playing Robin, I felt. But in those sequence of movies, it kind of felt right that Robin came along. But yeah, I just didn't like his character at all. And then we had Nicole Kidman, who was great in it. I remember having a major crush on her at the time when that came out. Was it Chase Meridian?
Chase Meridian.
Yeah. So,
What a grand
and like you said, the soundtrack. Yeah, like the soundtrack, there's like Kiss from a Rose, and then the U2 song, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, and stuff like that. Yeah. It's a great soundtrack. It was killer. Then we're going to go to... Batman versus Superman. I think that's going to be the same for me. I really enjoyed Affleck as Batman. And so this has got nothing to do with his performance of the character. It was just a badly written movie. It was a badly rushed movie. It was a Martha movie. It was... just so much about that movie didn't make sense. That like Lex Luger had like created all these logos for the heroes already and got files on his computer with them all named and all that kind of stuff. Just tried to do too much too soon, but Wonder Woman was great in it, and her theme song was kind of killer and stuff. But then, what they did to like with Doomsday and stuff, it was just like, nah. So, and yeah, I just never liked the casting of Lex Luthor. That grated me. Couldn't get on board with that. So it's a very much a movie of likable. Many of the characters were likable. So I like Henry Cavill. I like Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot. I liked all them individually, but just as a movie, it just didn't come together very well. Really, really disappointing. But saying that, I love Justice League Snyder Cut, and as a trilogy of movies where you got Man of Steel, that, and Justice League, it's a fairly strong trilogy. Because it starts well, finishes superbly. It's just that middle bit that gets a little bit mucky. But not all trilogies are perfect. Then it's going to be same for me. Dark Knight Rises. It's not that The Dark Knight Rises is a bad movie. It just didn't live up to the other two movies. I think there are some pacing issues in it. I don't think the Catwoman character was strong enough in it. Yeah, Bane himself was fine. They did hit a lot of the story beats from the like Nightfall comics, with him breaking his back and all that kind of stuff. Did hit some of those beats that I was familiar with. But I think it's got one of the worst death scenes in movie history. What was it? Is it Talia?
Yeah.
Talia, yeah.
Talia Al Ghul, that death scene where she's like in the cab of the truck.
She's still dying now. She's still in the truck dying now.
I mean, for such a perfectionist of what Nolan is, if that was the best take of that, I want to see what came before it. Jeez. So yes, that's kind of where it sits for me. Then we're going to go on to... This is kind of tough for me, but it's probably going to be... I've got to be true to myself. This is what I was saying. Okay, so I am going to go with Batman Returns at this point. Because as much as I really enjoy that movie, for me, some of the others on the list are a little bit better. But it's got some really strong performances in it. I would love to have seen where this version of Batman went for a third movie. But again, it's just because there's more to the others which I enjoy more about this one. So there's nothing taken away from this movie at all. Probably haven't actually got that much negative to say about it, to be honest. It was kind of dark, it was kind of gritty. Like we said, Michelle Pfeiffer was fantastic. Danny DeVito, forget Christopher Walken, his performance in it. So got nothing negative to say about that. Then I'm going to go The Dark Knight. So for me, it's a great movie. But if you take Heath Ledger out of that movie, it's a very average movie, in my opinion. His performance in particular elevates it. The Batman actually only appears on screen for 18% of this movie. So for the title character to get that minimal screen time is why it kind of ranks so low. It's a very enjoyable movie. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, Ben Affleck got more screen time in Batman versus Superman than Bale does in his own movie, you know? So it's just, yeah, that doesn't sit right with me. I think the Batman himself doesn't achieve much throughout the movie. You know, Joker kind of goes through his plan right up until the end, and, you know, then it's the citizens who make the choice, and that's kind of that. So, you know, the actual impact of what Batman does in this movie is quite minimal as well. I do forget how good Two-Face's performance was in that movie as well. I think he largely gets forgotten in terms of what's his name, Aaron Eckhart. You know, really strong performance. There again in this movie, I think the cheesy weird moment in this movie, like the death in Dark Knight Rises, is when Two-Face is in the hospital and Joker comes in dressed as a nurse, and he doesn't recognize him until he takes his mask off. And it's just like, yo, bro, come on. It's like, I know you got a bad face, but you got two good eyes. You should have been able to see that coming.
I think he's a bit
yeah.
So. No, man, it's bros is not nice.
Yeah. But you know, Heath Ledger's performance in that is one of the greatest comic book villain performances of all time. You can't take anything away from that, and it kind of set the trend of, you know, prejudging someone's performance before you actually see it, because no one thought he would be able to pull this off. And I'm just so gutted that he never really got to see the fruition of that and people's reactions to it, and the amount of enjoyment that movie and his performance has brought to people. And you know, some people might not agree that he should have won the Oscar because it was more like, maybe was it a guilt trip or something like that. That was the performance that deserved the Oscar. That was the best supporting performance of that year. So, but yeah, so that actually sits down there for me. Next up for me is Batman Begins. You know, a really strong movie, and for me, it's a better Batman movie than The Dark Knight Rises as a Batman movie. It's a great introduction story to the character. You know, it is a story that we are familiar with from the previous movies, but it does it well. It's more focused on his training and the more the reason why he become, as opposed to maybe the 89 one. But I remember seeing this movie because I worked at View Leicester Square at the time, and we got an advanced showing of it, and I saw the movie, was blown away. And I came back to Harrow, and I went to the pub that night, and there's a few of my friends at the pub, including Sasha, and I just said, oh, I just saw Batman Begins. And Sasha was like, yeah, okay, how was it? I was like, as good as, could be better than Batman 89. And I was told to shut the fuck up. So it's just like, no one was like, nah, not possible. And then people went and saw it, and people agree with me. You know, it was just like, it was so fresh a take on the character, and like so grounded in like a real world, like the Tumblr, and you know how he put his piece together. I think you forget how much of that movie relies on actually Morgan Freeman's performance in that movie and his character with Fox, you know, and that relationship that he has. You know, Gary Oldman is solid as a commissioner as well. But the one thing about those movies is I never got the relationship between Batman and Commissioner Gordon that I kind of maybe wanted more of. It was kind of there, but not really strong enough in that kind of connection. But it had some nice humor in it. You know, it did have some humor in that movie. And the Scarecrow was a great performance as well. You know, Cillian Murphy. So really, really strong. The next on my list is Batman 1989. That was Batman for me at the time. I was must have been 8 years old when it came out, but I snuck in to see it. We bought tickets for another movie and I went to go see it. And Batman was everything to me at that point. I've got my Lego Batman 89 here, and I've got my Batman 89 original toy car with Batman and Joker in it from the time. I still got all that and I've got the Penguin as well and stuff like that. I even remember the packaging. It was like this black and gold packaging that came in as well and stuff like that. Batman with his yellow utility belt and stuff like that. It was just, it meant everything to me at the time. It was just, it was really dark, but not overly, it was quite scary at some points, especially when you have like the mobster bit and, you have him falling in the vat. That scene where the surgeon is doing himself and he's looking in the mirror, smashes it, cackling and walking out. And seeing that Batmobile for the first time just blew my mind. Just so much about that movie that I love. And, it lives with me, and maybe it ranks higher because of the nostalgia, but that's what movies do. It's how they make you feel. And even when I go back and watch it now, I'm just delighted, and I enjoy that. I enjoy it more potentially than say like The Dark Knight, because it's the Heath Ledger's performance that I go back to rewatch. It's not the rest of the movie. So that kind of tells me, and Jack Nicholson was phenomenal. And do you forget about Bob? Poor old Bob, Bob the Goon. Unsung hero. And and so my top pick, having seen it twice now as a Batman movie, is The Batman. It's I've struggled because it's like when I'm ranking sort of like the Batman actors in my head as well, it's bizarre to me how strongly I feel about Pattinson's Batman compared to other performances just on one movie. I think, again, it was a different take. We didn't have to deal with the whole origin story. I like the fact that we're dealing with a Bruce Wayne who is pre-building this persona of the playboy billionaire. Yeah. It's like his year 2 of Batman. He's still all about the Batman, and he hasn't been able to separate Bruce Wayne and the Batman yet. And I really like that kind of stuff with it, because we've always saying, with Nolan's, it's very much as, I've got to be Bruce Wayne, and I've got to keep up my appearances, and I'll jump in a fish tank and make a scene. We're not there yet with this character. I love the fact that it's narrated. I love the fact Gotham looks immense. It got Gotham to character in this story. The beginning of the movie, when people are fearful of the shadows because of what he represents, it's like, that is the difference to me about representing Batman on film, that you don't even need to see the Batman to get the fear, which you just don't get in the Nolan trilogy. So that kind of speaks
that
to
a little bit, didn't they, in Begins? They were trying to
definitely. And a lot of people are scared, and he was like, it's like, who are you? I'm Batman. And it was just like, so there was very much about him not being on screen, but it's the way they use lighting in this movie that is so much better than the Nolan stuff. I think you actually get more fear out of the 89 Batman, like the two robbers on the top of the building, and he comes down, this huge bat, and they're kind of going crazy, like they don't know what they've seen. And it's just the way that he kind of turns it on and off. So like when he's approaching the guys who come off the train, and you hear the footsteps, it's like they're intentional to create the fear. Yeah, other times he's silent when he wants to disappear. So everything's kind of got a method to it. And, Riddler's performance was fantastic. It's that Zodiac killer kind of version of him, which was, fantastic. And watching the film a second time, I appreciated that performance a lot more than I did maybe the first time, because I was, you're so distracted. This is probably, for me, the best Jim Gordon we've got. J.K. Simmons, great actor, but didn't really have much to work with in sort of like his role in the DC universe at the moment. And, Gary Oldman, amazing actor, but this is like a buddy cop movie where Gordon and Batman are working together. And it's like, yes, this is awesome, because Batman has a colleague, but it doesn't have to be Robin, and he's not necessarily using Alfred as Alfred's trying to help him, but he's not asking for Alfred's help, but he does trust this, this Jim Gordon. So, you could say some criticism of the Batman is it does tread some familiar steps with the Dark Knight trilogy, because, you have the killing off of commissioners and, and interrogation scenes, between like Joker and Batman, and then Joker and Riddler and stuff like that. But it's Batman. You can only retell the same story so many times in so many different ways. But yeah, it just sits there for me at the moment. The music was fantastic, a great Batmobile. So yeah, that actually is ranking top of my list at this point. So yeah, and it wasn't until I actually revisited and really broke these down, actually, how much I dropped The Dark Knight in my rankings, because I always probably considered that to be my top 2 or 3. But but it hasn't, because I think Begins is a better movie than that as well. So, just my
What I
opinion.
will say though is that with The Dark Knight, even though Batman isn't in it that much, the times that he is in it, he's awesome.
He is great in it, and but unfortunately for me, the Bale's version of it is just, it's all about the woman. He has to save his girlfriend. The love of my life is more simple. You know, he's pining after her in the first movie. He's pining after her in the second movie. She dies. The third movie, he sees someone else and then retires. It's like, bruv, embrace the fucking mantle. Yeah, all you're doing is looking for reasons not to do this. So it's just because even in the second one, he's like, I give it up for her. You know, it's like, bro, what? We never saw peak Batman in the Nolan movies. There wasn't a point where he wasn't considering not being Batman. So that is where I struggle more with the Nolan trilogy than, say, the Michael Keaton movies, because he's like, I'm Batman, this is my life. Sorry, you're going to have to move on because this is what I do, as opposed to being, I'm looking for a way out all the time.
That's where I think where you said before, Ken, about it's a sort of crime movie, thriller, whatever, with like comic book characters, i.e. Batman in it.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense, yeah, because like Nolan's clearly doing his own thing. He's, drawing inspiration from, certain comic lines and this, that, and the other. But yeah, it's a totally different sort of take on Batman, and as opposed to, like say, even like 89 has.
I think it had to be
certainly tried to be more comic book accurate, if you want to call it that. We're opposed to Nolan, just kind of like, well, look, this is not even like a comic book world. This is literally like as if it's our world today. If this character, if a guy suddenly decided he was going to do this is kind of how it's going to be. And it's
which is fair, because so many people will be like, well, if you had billions of dollars, would you not try and be Batman? And it shows you what kind of that would this is how it would happen, and it felt right. It felt it was reasonable, but.
It's like you say, how many times do you do Batman as well? Because they say Batman 89, Nolan couldn't do that again. He had to put his own spin on it and do something different. Otherwise, you're just going to get Batman over and over again with the same story and the same look and everything. Yeah,
no, totally. I just wish Nolan spent more time on the Batman Bruce Wayne character, because what he did is he rushed Batman's progression in the first movie too quickly. Because he went from training to taking Wayne Enterprises back over and being, Bruce Wayne and Batman. And that journey was so quick. By the second one happening, it's like, okay, so now we have to look at all his flaws and, what's going to stop him being Batman. As opposed to just saying, right, he's peak Batman now. He's doing what he's doing, which is what the Batman gives you. He's just peak Batman trying to do his thing. And he's like willing to die for it. We never got that kind of Batman from the Nolan. But it was well received at the time. I enjoyed it at the time. It's only on reflection and seeing what else, and going from the comic books and stuff like that. Like I said, I'd never said that these were bad movies at the point, and I still don't say they're bad movies now. It's just that what I've been given now is more of what I wanted, being a comic book reader of the character for so many years. I've got all my Batman comics is at this side. Yeah, so I've got all my Batman comics sort of like here. I'm a big fan of it, so it's not just what I've read off the internet. So it's growing up on that stuff and, how I feel about it. But saying that, if we're going to talk about the best Batman stuff ever, Batman the Animated Series is still the definitive Batman that we've ever had. So just putting that out there.
Getting handled his business.
Yeah, got to take care of that business, man. Batman the Animated Series is the OG. Right, Neil, where are we sitting with your list, bro? So let's start at the bottom.
Right. Well, at first, I got to point out, right, that this is a list of Batman films. This is not the list of the most technically made, like, oh, it's a beautiful masterpiece and all the technical, lovely, the cinematography and all of that out the window. This is about Batman. So,
about the character and how he's portrayed.
That's right.
Okay.
So, at the very bottom, no surprises here, it's Batman and Robin. Sorry, as soon as you slap nipples on an outfit, you lose by default. Nipples? Bro, no. right? So the nipples and the back credit card. No, you lost it because obviously I wasn't thinking about this then, but in my head now as a grown man, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna pay for something with the back credit card. Yeah, I'll take it. Slide it through. Oh, Bruce Wayne. Oh, okay. Now I know who it is. Right?
Yeah, it's like Batman just walked up into a bank. I'm like, yeah, I'll open an account, please. Here's my ID. Here's my Batman passport.
And it's like, I mean, to lightly touch on things, right? About, I think I could be wrong, but I think maybe 15 years before, maybe 20 years before, there was a Spider-Man comic where Spider-Man gets a check, right? For like all his good deeds and all the good he's doing. He gets a check for like, it's a substantial amount of money. Let's call it, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, $20,000. He gets a check for $20,000.
Yeah.
And then when he goes to cash the check, the bank doesn't let him because he's Spider-Man. They're like, we need a proof of ID.
Mm-hmm.
That was before this movie.
Yeah.
No, that foolishness can't run with me, right?
And the whole and the fact that they're going back and forth, like, I'm just going to borrow your money.
Yeah.
It was just like, yeah.
So like that foolishness there, but it was campy and again, it's become more of a guilty pleasure, right? It's like, I try to say that no film is terrible. I mean, there are obviously some exceptions, but no film is terrible. There are some films that you just don't like for varying reasons, but that's that. So, Batman and Robin is number.
Here's a question. So, just touching on Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mr. Freeze has got plenty of lines in this movie, like puns.
Yeah.
What's the line that you remember most of Freeze's in that movie?
Honestly, it's weird. It's the Iceman cometh. It's just his opening. It just pops up. It's like, the Iceman cometh.
Iceman cometh. What about you guys?
Go on.
Lee, Alex?
Probably you won't take me to the cooler.
Yeah, you won't take me to the cooler. Yeah. Lee, have you got a line that you remember?
Oh, don't know.
No. For me, it was like, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. It's just like, what? How is this a threatening, weird line? But the one that a lot of people do from that movie is "Ice to See You," but that's not actually in that movie. That is from The Simpsons, a McBain episode, when McBain's in a frozen thing, he pops out and says "Ice to See You." So that was actually never in the movie, but so many people associate it because it seems so obvious. It's like, how did you not use that in the movie? No, you went with Iceman Cometh. But anyway, all right, carry on, Neil.
So number 9 is Batman 66.
Okay.
It was going to be higher. It was going to be actually at number 8 because I think a lot of people dislike it for its cheesy or campiness. But I'm like, that's on par for every version of Batman you saw at that time. When that film came out, if you picked up a comic, that's what he was doing, that foolishness. The TV show that came before the film, he was doing that kind of madness. So what you saw was worth it. And as a child, like single numbers, watching that, I believe on Channel 4, I was hooked, right?
I watched that movie probably more than I would care to admit as a kid, because it was enjoyable as a kid.
Right, because
again, that was the only Batman you had.
Yeah, it was the only Batman. So it was the one to watch, right? So that was that. Number 8 is The Dark Knight Rises. I couldn't.
Okay.
Damn. Right. I've said several times on several different podcasts, Christopher Nolan is an absolute genius as a filmmaker. And he made 3 exquisite films surrounding the Gotham area. One of them was a beautiful masterpiece for Batman. The other 2 had cameos of Batman in it. Right? I mean, damn. Come on now, right? And it was like everybody made it hype. They were like, "Oh, it's in the record books because it's the first film with Batman in it that doesn't have Batman in the title." you know, for the Dark Knight. And I'm like, yeah, there's a reason they didn't put Batman in the title because he ain't in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing. Do you know that Jack Nicholson actually gets royalties still from future Batman releases because of the deal he made on that original movie?
I'm not surprised because Marlon Wayne's got paid 3 separate times for Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
yeah.
And
so Jack Nicholson, every time there's a Batman movie, and that is why after Batman Begins, because of the break of the original ones, they talked about one of the reasons why they tried to switch it from the Batman titles is because of the royalties they were still paying Jack Nicholson, but because the characters in the movie, he still gets paid. So he gets some box office money every release, which is, man, that's why the man doesn't need to work.
Yeah, get your money, Jack. Get your money. Go sit there and watch them Lakers games.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, Dark Knight Rises. I mean, Catwoman is not in it. A character named Catwoman is in it. Or a character named Selena Kyle is in it, rather. Bane was beautiful. I must give him. I was exquisite Bane, right? You know, honestly, it's weird. My favorite moment from that movie is when Bane's watching the kids sing the national anthem. Lovely voice. It was a beautiful voice, right? And I was like, yeah, just taking these moments, Bane, right? So I loved Bane, but there were just issues with the film. It just wasn't a Batman film. I can't stand the ending. Oh, what was his name? What's his name? Is it not John Bishop? Jordan goes to
Blake.
John Blake. Jonathan Blake, right? If that movie had been 15 minutes longer, you would have seen the death of Blake. Night 1, he's dead. Right? Let's face it. Bruce Wayne, the man had billions at his disposal, disappeared for like 7 years or something, learning from all these different masters and all these people in different variety of groups, and he learned how to master himself. The man, look at that. Alfred cussed him out in Batman Begins for about the press-ups to pick up one log, right? The man trained his ass off. John Blake is in one movie and don't win one fight. And you expect this man to put on a batsuit, go out there, fight crime. He's dead. Day 1, minute 1, dead. And you should use your middle name, Robin. Disgusted. Right?
Yeah.
So that, like I said, Batman 66 almost jumped above it. After that, Batman Forever. So number 7 is Batman Forever.
Okay.
I don't really have any issues with the film, but it's just, I mean, you know, everything, a list like this is partly based on nostalgia. And whilst I don't have anything bad or negative to say, just nostalgia-wise, it just doesn't really cut it for me. I think maybe because I love Batman Returns so much that this being the film to follow that, I was like, nah. Yeah. I was like, I miss Keaton. And, you know, I was like, where's Billy D. Williams? Why is, you know...
you teased me Two-Face for 2 movies.
So I was like, you know, things like that. I was like, not really feeling it. That said, there were certain moments which, even now, to me, stand out as a real high point. One of them, I know we spoke about the situation with all the neon. I quite like it in regards to, I like it when Robin steals the Batmobile. Not that he stole the Batmobile, but the fact that when he winds up in that alleyway fighting Scarecrow or Scarecrow's minions, right? When he winds up fighting them and he's in that position, that fight, they've got the neon glow sticks and all of that. But that's where you see the fear really pop up, because the second Batman arrives, everybody scatters. And then the second that happens, and then there's a confrontation between, Dick Grayson and Batman, and he's like, "You were there. You could have stopped this, and you didn't."
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a nice little bit of conflict here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have to point that out, even though I've rated it so low. After that, number 6 is Batman v Superman. Even though the film is not by any stretch a masterpiece, I absolutely love it. I loved it. I enjoyed it the first time I saw it, problems and all. And it's hard to enjoy a film when you can see the problems. Like, if it's something nostalgic, like, The Goonies or something, right? It's just like, it's got problems. I don't give a shit. I love it anyway.
Yeah.
But to watch a film and then see, and it's, there's issues with this film, but I still love it. That's how I felt with Batman v Superman. The beginning of the film, to be so kind of lined up perfectly of the chaos of the end of Man of Steel, and to have
I like
here's that chaos from these different angles, and everything is still lining up. Chef's kiss. All right, that was beautiful.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I just wish the person in the building that died was more relatable to the audience.
Yeah, like it would have been better if it was somebody, a named character, someone we knew. Like,
it could have been Fox.
That should have been Lucius Fox.
Exactly, it should have been Fox.
Yeah,
and then that would have been so much more relatable. Like, I know the name.
Yeah.
More for the comic book characters, comic book readers and the people who may be familiar with the other franchise know the name the Fox and stuff like that. If that was that, then you understand why he's angered so much more than just some next random white dude.
Some dude named Jack, right?
Yeah.
So that was not it. And also, we touched on it before, but the fight scenes with Batman. Damn.
Yeah. Right? I mean, to be honest, the Nolan trilogy is probably the weakest of the fight choreography.
Some of them
is very clunky.
Yeah. Because some of the fights in the Nolan films, literally characters hit air and characters get beat up by air.
Yeah,
right?
It's very clunky.
I'm serious. I think it's Batman. I think it's The Dark Knight Rises. You watch it, the fight where it's Catwoman and Batman on the rooftop. There is dudes who literally get pumped up by air. I know everybody, villains are supposed to be afraid of Batman, but look, you can run away. Getting knocked out by air, like, hey, listen, it's not working. Right? So yeah, the fights in BVS. And the thing is, when I watched BVS, I had just finished Arkham Knight. So I was like, you clearly play Arkham Knight. Because that was right. So that, I enjoyed. Obviously, the film has several issues. Number 5 is The Dark Knight. Sorry, just gotta go there. It was the beginning of the problems for Batman. For me, that film was the beginning of the problems for Batman. Because you are Bruce Wayne Batman, and your whole goal in that film is to get the girl who's friend zoned you.
Yeah.
That's your whole goal in the film, right? Is to quit being Batman and be with this woman. That's like, so it's always like, so you dedicated your life, you watched your parents die, and you dedicated yourself to make sure no one will ever feel this pain and suffering again. And sorry to be crass, but as soon as you get some good pussy, you're going to be like, your parents died? Sorry about that. It's not going down that way. It can't, right? And yes, the Joker was amazing. Yes, Heath Ledger is amazing, right? And what he did...
Is that why you put it above Batman versus Superman? Because you just said you really enjoyed Batman versus Superman. So why is The Dark Knight above that?
Because The Dark Knight, it's the Joker movie before the Joker movie, right? And the thing is, when I look at it, even with BVS, and I said I love that movie, but it does have its problems. And I think there are certain certain elements outside of the film which make me, I will always have a soft spot for BVS, because I got to meet Zack Snyder the day I saw the film. I got to watch the film in the cinema with him and Henry Cavill, right? Yeah, I'm like, holy shit! You know, I have to say thank you to Jessen, because Jessen was the one who made that happen for me. Like, there's so much going on, wrapped up and entailed in that film that I love it. I saw it in the cinema 3 times. So it's that, but I must admit that The Dark Knight is ever so slightly, maybe 4% out of 100 higher.
Okay.
So I give it that. At number 4, this is where I'm going to start upsetting people, really. Number 4 is Batman 89.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with the film, barring one thing, which I really didn't like, which was that they have it that the Joker killed Batman's parents. Can't abide by that. Because I got to see that film late. I saw Batman Returns before I saw The Batman.
Okay.
And so I didn't know that it was like, oh, the Joker killed Batman's parents. I'm like, oh, it's just some regular dude who kills them, right? You know, that's what spawns this whole thing on. And in the mythology of Batman, that's what makes it better, is it's just some random person who does it. Okay, yeah, there's the whole thing of it could be connection to the mob, or it, you know, someone hired them, they were assassinated, you know, all that stuff. But basically, it's always just a random person. It's a random act of violence. There is no, you know, there's nothing in the killing of his parents that gives him an end goal. Because if it's the Joker who kills his parents, as soon as he gets rid of the Joker, hey, I've avenged my parents, I can chill now. But if it's just a random person who never finds it out, that makes it, yeah, you know what? You have to do this forever, because you're never going to get to avenge them. Your avenging them is making sure no one else has to suffer this.
Yeah.
So when they was like, oh, it's the Joker, and that line where he's like, oh, I made you, you made me first. I'm like,
yeah.
What are you? Are we 10? Are we 11 years old now? So,
well, I was 8, so,
yeah.
So I bought it.
Yeah, you know.
So the thing is, that to me at the time was the origin story, because I knew kind of Batman's parents were killed, but I didn't read the comic books at like 7, 8 years old. So going into the movie and him being the killer, that's what I thought it was at the time. It wasn't until I read the comics later down the line that I was like, oh, okay, it's different in the movie than that. Because what kind of made sense to me a little bit is the fact that I know he died in this movie, but in the comics, I know he doesn't die. And it's like, I thought potentially he can't kill the Joker because then he would be taking away his own end goal. So that's why he always lets the Joker go, because he can't bring himself to kill him, even though he killed his parents or whatever it is. So, you know, I thought that's a psychological thing there. But yeah, it wasn't until a few years after that, that when I started picking up the comics and reading it for myself, that I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's some random guy. So, that didn't play into it. You know, obviously I could look at it back objectively now.
Yeah.
But I think at the time, movie and storytelling needed that, in the sense of the villain needed to be connected to the hero. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Audiences kind of needed that. When by the time Joker came around with Heath Ledger, it's like, yeah, chaos. That's fine. We can just be doing it, and we actually don't know why he's doing it or what his origin story is. And that's why I didn't like Joker as much, because it was trying to paint it out. This is exactly why Joker became Joker. I don't need that. I don't want that. And I think if you take Joker out of the movie and just have it as this serial killerist person, it's like an amazing movie. Just didn't need to be a Joker movie.
Yeah.
But that's just my preference anyway. But sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So we're on 3, 2, and 1 now. The fun. So the bronze medal has to go to Batman Begins.
Yay.
There's nothing wrong with that film. That is the best Batman film that Nolan made. Technically, it's the only Batman film that Nolan made. It is brilliant. I've never been. This is going to sound very kind of hypocritical or very kind of contradictory to other things I will say. I've never been a super big fan of the realism. Right?
Okay.
I don't need the realism, right? This is Batman. You're dressing up like a bat.
Mm-hmm.
Realism left. Right? Realism left when you thought up your name, realism was gone.
Mm-hmm. No, I get what you're saying.
So all of that, like we're gonna ground it in the real world and everything needs to be. No, I'm like, look, Ra's al Ghul, the dude's immortal. Realism is gone, right? But that said, it was an absolute brilliant film, especially considering the film we got before that was Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
I think there's also that also kind of has to take. It also must be something that is brought up. Is certain films? I have to say that there are certain films that they're good, but they're good because of what came before them.
Yeah.
You know, because I always say, when I point it out, I say, look, if Batman Begins or if The Dark Knight was the next film to come out after Batman Returns, whole different kettle of fish about how good that film is. Whole different kettle of fish. But you've had the Val Kilmer Batman, which wasn't a bad film, but it's not greatly received. It's not as well received as Keaton's ones. So yeah, you had that, and then you had George Clooney and the way there. So when all of this stuff happens, it allows you to be like, okay, no, this is really good. So it's really good now. Line it up against the best. It feels different.
Okay.
I did slightly struggle with 2 and 1. But not as much as, like, some of you guys look like you were struggling hard. I didn't struggle that hard. It was like, okay, one of them is, seriously great. And the other one is just, like, I watch it every year. So, The Batman had to be number 2. Sorry, cool. I get it right now. We're riding this high wave of how good a film it is. And it deserves that. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10 as a brilliant movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was shouting from the rooftops about how if Paul Dano doesn't get just a nomination for an Oscar, I'm vexed. The film is beautiful. Catwoman is there, and because I read Batman Year One, it's like I have a very, very, very vivid memory of that because I read it, like I went on holiday, I think it was in Morocco, and I read that comic on the way there. And I was like, holy shit, this is brilliant. Wow, this is really different than what I thought it was going to be, but it's so good. And some of the outfits that she wore and her behavior and things, I'm like, I was just like, you just tore the page out and was like, put this on screen. That's what it felt like. It felt like Matt Reeves was like, okay, so I don't have to do Ben Affleck's script. No, what do you want to do? Here, take this page and this page and this page, and we're gonna make this movie. So I was like, yeah, brilliant. But number 1 has to be Batman Returns. Sorry, that movie is just... Oh, that movie is magical. You know how hard it is? Like, we were making this list, and I was like, should I just go and watch Batman Returns right now for no reason? No, I remember it well. It can wait another week.
It's enough. It's enough, yeah.
Damn. Because everything about it, especially because, as I said, like, I saw that before I saw The Batman. So when I saw Batman 89, rather, it felt a little tame. In comparison, it felt a little tame.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, the whole thing of like when the Joker and his gang break into the art gallery.
Yeah.
I wasn't as invested. I wasn't really with it as much as like, you know, when Penguin's gang show up in Batman Returns, and it's like there's certain moments that are just amazing, like when they kill Miss Gotham, right, when they dump her through the tree, and as soon as she lands in the tree and everything, all the bats come flying out, and you're framing Batman. It's like the idea of that's the first time in any kind of form of media that I'd ever seen someone say, this is the symbol and we're going to tear down the symbol. Right? And when you think, you go all the way to Batman Begins, and he was like, oh, you know what? You can destroy a man, but you can't destroy the symbol. I was like, bruh, they tried to destroy your symbol in the 90s.
Yeah.
They was ready to deal with you then. And the whole thing of the uneasy alliance between Catwoman and Penguin, you know, that beautiful moment where she shoves his bird in her mouth and then he's like, I'll stab your cat. You know?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like the whole thing of, you know, we're going to make the Penguin run for mayor. And, you know, I think there's just even thinking about it now, we're talking about it now. You try to make Batman a villain and make the Penguin look like the good guy.
The hero.
I was like, bruh, Tim Burton, he's not one of my favorite like filmmakers, right? I think his, you know, some of his films are absolutely just, you know, pin that shit to the mountain. It's that good. And some of them I'm like, you could have done without that. But, yo, I'm like, you were playing with a different Batman set. Right, you had a different. Everyone got the standard Batman toys. You got the limited edition ones because you was like, "Watch what I do with Penguin." And you know, even though you know, like I've heard all the stories and like done the research, and it's like Max Schreck wasn't supposed to be Max Schreck. It was supposed to be Harvey Dent. It was supposed to be Billy D. Williams. He was going to be that was going to be him, and that's how he becomes Two-Face. And I was like, "Ooh, that would have been lovely." But Max Schreck, different,
nice character.
Right there, you know. Even when he's talking to her and he's like, she's like, it's not like you can kill me, and it's just like, actually, it is a lot like that. It's like, and just shoves her out the window. I was like, good God, man.
Oh, brilliant.
So yeah,
cool. All right, thank you very much for your take, Neil. Much appreciated. So the scores are in, and it's tight, very tight. So in joint last place, 10th place is Batman and Robin and Batman the movie, 1966. So therefore, in 8th place, we have Batman Forever. In 7th place, we have Batman vs. Superman. In 6th spot, we have The Dark Knight Rises. In 5th place, we have Batman Returns. Then a 3-way tie for 4th place with The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, and Batman 1989. 3-way tie. Which leaves a 3-point gap to the top spot, which is The Batman at number 1. So that just shows Batman 89, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, how tight they are in terms of people's love and affection for them. And I think that, it's many different factors. I think it depends on your exposure to the character, the type of movies you want to see, grounded realism or a little bit more fantasy. What age you saw the films and what age you are now, what order you saw the films. Because there'll be loads of people who grew up on the Nolan trilogy and then went back and watched maybe the Burton ones. And it doesn't hit the same, because they've watched the other ones. And so many people regard The Dark Knight as one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. And there's an argument that it's one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. But yeah, for me, it's just not the greatest Batman movie that's ever been made. So it's, and to me, it's not a comic book movie. It's a thriller movie.
It's a crime thriller sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a crime thriller. So Nolan's movies also almost need their own category in a sense. So it's very, very hard. And so I would never criticize anybody who says, you know, The Dark Knight is my favorite movie because I can understand it, and you know, I'll put my points across, but I'll never say anyone you're wrong. You know, that's not what we do here. We don't tell people that they're wrong, except maybe Sasha. I don't know.
Like Wonder Woman 84, you're wrong.
Okay, yes. Sometimes you are wrong. Sometimes people can be wrong. But yeah, so I think that's what it says. It's a really, really tight list. So we'll just run that down again. So top spot is taken by the Batman. Then we have Batman 89, Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight tied in second spot, if you will, followed by Batman Returns, followed by The Dark Knight Rises, Batman vs Superman, Batman Forever, Batman the Movie, and Batman and Robin joint last place. There's not a lot there that really surprises me, to be honest. So
no one else has sent you any other lists. The other guys haven't sent you lists.
No, I haven't received any lists from any other guys. Sasha, who's always a regular on this podcast, he would have, he would have come on here. I think he's very similar train of thought to myself and Neil in terms of the Nolan trilogy. I think he says like they're crime thrillers. So I think actually his favorite Batman movie might be Batman Begins. So I think that was probably actually his favorite. Yeah. And I know Batman 89, I know the Batman is quite up there, but I think Batman Begins, that is a particular movie that he absolutely loves. So that would have probably been his top spot. But yeah, so that's our ranking of the Batman movies. Let us know what you thought in the comments. What was your rankings? What's your favorite Batman movie? Are we way off? Are we completely wrong? Tell us, there might be some fanboys of the Nolan trilogies just saying, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh yeah,
but
they're come for us.
Maybe you might have listened to something that we've had to say and say, okay, I can see your point. Let us know that.
I'll be safe.
I'm curious. I'm curious from Neil. Where would you rank Mask of the Phantasm then? As a
goodness, jeez.
If you were to slot it somewhere in your list,
if I had to slot it in the list, it probably become third.
Okay, yeah, that was actually the same for me. Yeah,
I think it probably sit for me just under 89. So it'd be for me the Batman 89, and then Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah,
just an incredible film. What about the Lego Batman movie?
Oh, sorry, I gotta sit that one next to I have to sit that one next to Batman 66.
Oh wow, right, okay, that low.
Not as bad. It's not bad because, as I said, right, that none of the movies in this list do I dislike.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. None of the movies in this list do I think are bad movies.
Mm-hmm.
But Batman 69. Batman 66, Batman and Robin, and the Lego Batman movie all sit in that very we're camp stage. We're camp and we know.
Yeah, okay.
But the Lego Batman movie and Batman 66 both get a pass because one is supposed to be as campy as it is, and the other is it's a Batman movie that is aimed at children, but given inside jokes for adults.
Yeah. No, that's fair. It'll probably sit just above Batman vs Superman for me.
Yeah, that's actually. I had it. So I had obviously Batman Returns at number 6 and Batman v Superman at 7. I probably would have slotted it. Yeah, probably between those two.
Probably just
more. I think just probably like for rewatchability as well. Because like again, yeah, Batman v Superman. I enjoy the Affleck side of things, but I've not rewatched it that many times. I think Lego Batman, I would probably, not that I've seen it, I think I've only seen that twice as well, but I would probably be more inclined to sort of sit down and probably rewatch that more than maybe Batman v Superman, personally.
All right, cool.
I wanted to
any other thoughts on the Batman? So I've already said that my favorite incarnation is Batman the Animated Series, Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill's Joker. That is pinnacle to me. That is
totally
Batman.
Agree, mate.
But is there any other shout-outs or mentions of any Batman incarnations that you kind of want to have a shout-out?
I'm looking forward to Keanu Reeves Batman.
Keanu Reeves as Batman in Super Pets. Yeah. Kevin Hart as the dog. Is it Bat Dog? It's probably Bat Dog.
Ace.
You know,
No, I agree, mate. For me, animated series is like it's just top Batman stuff.
yeah,
for
it's
me.
it's the benchmark.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the benchmark, right? But one thing I was gonna say, right, is so I was explaining to someone a film fan theory in relation to Batman, and I'm sure you guys have heard it, that the film Seven is set in Gotham City before Batman emerges in Gotham City.
Okay.
Right.
I have
Yeah,
not.
I
I have
can
not
go with
heard
that.
that, but so continue.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
It's the film fan theory that film is set. The city that the film is set in is Gotham.
Yep. Okay.
Because you never get told where the film is. You just know it's a dark, gritty city. Everything is mashed up, and I'm like, oh, that could be Gotham. So I heard the theory that it was like it was supposed to be Gotham City, and that's just the fan theory. That's
Even Siri doesn't get it.
Yeah, that is a theory that is out there. I'm 100% sure it's not accurately true, but it's a theory.
It's a fun theory. Yeah.
And I like that fun theory because imagine if that was true, and then The Batman is a sequel to it.
Yeah. Think about it. I'm thinking that because obviously in 7 it rains an awful lot.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a scene in the Batman where it isn't raining. It's like literally there is no other weather except rain. I think in the Batman.
The end of the film when they're riding the bikes. That's when it's not raining.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But
yeah, that's when it's not raining. Yeah,
it was raining.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I like that theory.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. I can follow that logic. That makes sense.
Okay, I can see that. Because I don't think he actually ever gets a name, does he? Isn't he just John Doe?
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey.
But like you say, the city's never like named, is it? It's never like
never named.
You know, it's it's not like they specifically shout out like say New York or whatever. It's just
And the thing is, you watch the film. There's no landmarks in that film whatsoever. There's nothing to say, oh, you're in New York, you're in California, you're in Chicago. There's no landmarks nowhere. There's no reference to anything that's in one city and not in another. Everything about it.
Do they not say what police department they're in?
No. All you know is it's the police department. There's never even a moment where they say like, like New York is the NYPD or Los Angeles the LAPD.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. It just says police.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch 7 now.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was going to say
because I thought Brad Pitt transferred. I thought he said he came from another department.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The department. He says, "Oh, you transferred from like I don't know, not Metro West or somewhere." He's like, "You transferred from
Metropolis.
there here." And
Okay.
Why? You know. So I'm like,
was that a subtle RoboCop reference? I just got it. No, it's Metro. No, is it Metro South or is it Metro South? In RoboCop, I can't remember.
Yes, it is transferring in
Metro South from Metro South. Yeah.
Metro South.
Sorry, I thought for some reason it was Metro West then when you said that. I thought, oh, you're trying to be a bit sly there, but okay.
All right, cool. All right, brilliant. Well, thanks very much for joining us, gentlemen, today. Anything else you guys want to shout about before we wrap up?
If you haven't seen the Batman, go watch it. If you have seen it, go watch it again.
Again. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, as always, thank you very much for joining us. If you haven't already, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and any of our other platforms where we have our podcast, which is Apple, Google, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Good Pods. We are everywhere. So yeah, you just help us with the views. Make it so I can make this my full-time job. I'd appreciate it because I'm leaving my job at the end of this month, so I need something else to keep me going.
Maybe need
any sponsors
shoes
out there. Yeah, the kids need their shoes. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Until next time, peace out.
Peace.
Take care.
Take care, guys.